Hi, welcome.
Hello, thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you today. I think you've got such an amazing network that's come to support you. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you, network. I'm really excited and I hope it's fruitful. So I'd love some feedback later.
Amazing. Most founders don't don't start with that. So well, if you're dialing in, please comment where you're dialing in from, comment any questions you have. But I'll do a quick intro and then turn it over to you for your intro. So really quickly, callmejz.ai. This is more than episode 50 now. And I have launched a class to help people sell more by being themselves, by being on podcasts. And the link is below at givetake.callmejz.ai. But over to you. Introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Anar Amin. I am a chief of staff and the CEO and founder of Anar Amin Consulting. And I'm industry agnostic, so I've got a lot of different types of clients. I do work with education, ed techs, health, school systems. There's also nonprofits and hedge funds and anything that you need, startups to a big company, you can come to me.
Amit Doshi coming from Dallas.
Hi, Amit.
Amit. Amit, please comment any questions that you have. But let's get into it, Anar. How did you get into becoming a chief of staff?
That is a very, very good question. I was actually a educator. I was a teacher for a very long time, and I became a superintendent for a private school system. I was doing that for about 13 plus years, almost 15. And then I realized that I had grown as much as I can in the leadership roles that I was given. So I wanted to pivot, and I wanted to exit gracefully. And somebody was just like, you'd make a really great chief of staff. And here I am thinking, what is that? So I had to go Google it and be like, oh my gosh, this is me. This is the exact same skill sets that I have. I can very much do this. It's a good mix of like change management consultant, project manager, a founder in itself, and just someone that just understands all of the different work streams that are there. So I quickly just jumped into it. I think I pivoted 5 days after I exited being an educator. And here I am, just really, really having a great time and learning a lot. And I think my biggest strength in all of this has been is that the agility that you have to have in order to cater to the different types of clients, but also in one day you're catering to about three or four. So switching that hat, putting on the right hat, making sure you're prepped for all your calls and all the executions that you have to do. So it's definitely keeping me on my toes, but I wake up very happy every day at 5:30 a.m., watch the sunrise, and then I get to work. So here I am.
Wow, that's an early rise. How do founders start being CEO and then end up being a better CEO? So we have a lot of founders here who have a similar story of transitioning from one thing to another. How do they become that fourth time serial entrepreneur?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think wherever you are in your journey, right, whether you just have an idea or you've already launched and you've got two people in your office or you've got 50 and you're doubling to 100 next year, I think there's a few things that we should super remember is that as a CEO and a founder, you need to discern what is your core work and explore work. And there's a lot of really great ideas that'll come to your mind, and you've already started out. You're down this one path, right? You've got this really awesome strategic vision. You've already got your OKRs, you've got your metrics in place, and all of a sudden you hear this like amazing idea pop up, and you want to pivot and you want to go ahead and be a little bit agile, and you want to put something out there that's different and like get everybody bought in and riled up. But hello, let's wait, let's back up a little bit. Is this the core work of what your vision and mission and your values were? Or is this explore work where you can wait to do this and work on this until you've got the core down? And I think a lot of times if a CEO or a founder is not able to discern that right away between the two, it really gets your staff and your employees and your supporters and advocators riled up in a different direction that you want them to go in. So the first thing I would advise is just make sure you know what's your core work, what's your explorer work. And then the other thing I would suggest is really establish an awesome cabinet or an office of the CEO. You need the best people around you that understand your vision and what you need to put out there, but don't mistake um, someone that has like an understanding of it but not the skill set for it. So if you really want to hire your best friend, they better be a good CTO or a good HR or a good like product person. Otherwise you're just not going to have the right environment to thrive and to succeed. So that would be the second thing that I would recommend.
Well, I have so many questions already, so I'm sure the audience does as well.
Awesome.
Can I ask you about the first thing?
Sure.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate because I've worked with some of these personas. Let's say I am a serial entrepreneur or a data scientist. I am super brilliant. And after I figured out a problem, I want to immediately move on to the next shiny new problem. And so doesn't mean that my company or my team has solved the initial problem, but I'm already done. Like I'm already bored. And I'm not saying me, like these are a lot of people that I've worked with or I'm helping right now. So what do you recommend for someone like that?
That's a great question. So I think let me clarify what core versus explorer is again. So your core, your bread and butter, right? If you're this product person, is that you gotta keep going. You got the requirements in, you got to get them out, you got to make sure everything is good to go on this product. But you got 3 other products to work on because you're not just sitting there doing one thing. You have 3 or 4 things. That's your bread and butter. That's your core. The explorer would be, all right, everyone, now we're gonna scale. And now we're going to do all of this. We're like, hold up. Are we ready to scale yet? Because we haven't even tested this product out in a small group of people. So then let's not explore yet until you've done the core and the bread and butter part of it. And then come back later for the explorer when you are very, very confident that your core is good to go. So that does not mean that you don't work on multiple things at the same time. Or, hey, if you get bored and you drop it, I'll come back to it tomorrow. I'll come back to it in a month when, things get moving. That's totally fine. You should be doing that. If your staff is not able to juggle a few things at the same time, I think that's a really strong conversation to have right away as to like what's happening. Because work, especially in the startup culture or founder, like a brand new organization, it's super fast. Right? It's not linear at all. It's like all over, and you have to be able to catch up. So great question. I would say definitely explore if you're ready for your core, and it's solid and rocked.
Why do people avoid the core?
That's a really good question. I know personally, I feel it's a will and skill type of thing, right? Like, I know I can do this, but I'm really not bought in. I really don't like the product. I still don't think this is the best thing that we should be putting out there. We're wasting our time. So I'm not going to do it. Or I'm going to be like, I'm going to procrastinate. I'm going to push it to the very end. I'm probably going to have missed a few deadlines. So it could be a skill versus will problem. But I also know that the CEO plays a really important role in getting clarity and buy-in from the team. So if we are going to assign something to someone and they're not able to deliver, knowing that their skill set is there, that means they're not bought in. So you have to be able to pick that up really quickly. And sometimes that means you're in the day-to-day and in the weeds. And sometimes that just means like you got to have those strategy meetings where people can air their stuff out and really honestly share with you that, hey, this is not my thing. Please don't give this to me. Give me some help or take it off my plate, whatever it is, right? Like, I hope they don't get fired for it, but hopefully they can have an open space to be able to talk to the CEO about this.
So you're saying the CEO's core is to inspire all direct reports to be super excited, like lit on fire about their assignment.
Oh, absolutely. Like the other thing I would suggest CEOs, you can be a 10x CEO if you have the right EQ, the right IQ, the right PQ, and the right SQ. And EQ is emotional intelligence. That's like, can you discern between like self-awareness and somebody else's emotions as well, right? So like, can you regulate yourself? Are you able to react in a particular manner? It's people management as well, self-motivation and all of that. Your IQ, obviously, is the logical reasoning, your comprehension, all of that stuff. Your social intelligence, your charisma, right? Are you able to, you have this right executive presence? Are you able to corral everybody on this particular idea that you have? And are you able to then read everybody else's emotions in the room and play off of those cues? And that is super, super important as well. And then the last one is PQ, which I think is the most important, is the positive intelligence. Do all of our CEOs and founders are here on listening at the moment? How high is your positive intelligence? That is basically the measure of the strength of your positive versus negative mental muscles. So like your thought processes, right? Are you 75% thinking positively where your brain is your friend, and 25% you're thinking negatively and you're sabotaging yourself? And I have dealt with a lot of CEOs that their EQ is a little bit lower. And that's when I do executive coaching. And that's when we talk about, how are you going to approach this? What are you going to say? The words are very important. Semantics matters. Your vernacular matters. Your literal presence and how you walk into the room matters. So I think your PQ is probably one of the important things. Also, because this is your baby. I hope that you know that these people are supporting you to keeping your baby alive, because you can't do this on your own. So yeah, those 4 things: EQ, PQ, IQ, SQ. Come talk to me later if you want to learn more about that.
Absolutely. I love this core being belief. You have to believe in the product, and you have to believe in your people who are executing on the strategy and the execution. So the way I do it is I want to get to the experiment as quickly as possible. So we might disagree on the strategy and execution, but let's run an A/B test, let's run an experiment and get the data as soon as possible. And I actually let people run experiments that I know might fail, just so that we can get to the conversation of like, why did that fail? What do you think will be more successful? So I definitely do it by experimentation. But I think what you said about giving people the positively, like, I really appreciate that you're doing this. I know you don't want to do this and you don't believe, but I appreciate that together we're going to get a data set and we'll look at it together afterwards. So
yeah,
thanks for highlighting the positivity there.
Yeah, it's also relationships, right? And how you approach it. I don't think I've ever had a student in the past, nor a colleague, nor a direct report that said, no, I don't want to do something. It's probably because I was able to have that positive relationship, but also it was strong enough for me to approach them prior to assigning and saying, tell me what are 3 things that you don't like about this, so that we could like adjust it now, because you're going to work on it regardless. But at least there's a voice and there's space, and I'm open to feedback.
I love how you're approaching it as a teacher, because I have students too, and they're just like, don't have time, don't want to do it, and they're paying
right.
to be in class. So that's a great framework for it. Let's move on to the second insight that you had. Do you mind just repeating that?
Sure. I had said you have to establish an amazing cabinet or office of the CEO. So you got to have the right people surrounding you in your C-level or in your executive space. I think leveling is also important, right? Like, how do you get the right type of levels that are at the table? Is it a senior director? Is it a manager? Is it a VP? Is it a chief? Do you have someone else that could be your proxy eventually? Let's say you take, 6 weeks and you have to go fundraise and you have to travel the world and do what you need to do. So who's going to take your spot while you're away for 3 weeks or 4 weeks, et cetera? So building that right cabinet around you is super important. I think people don't think about that right off the bat because you're fighting fires, right? If you're a founder, you are not worried about like 10 years down the line. You're kind of worried about now. And that's okay. You should be. You need someone to do that. But you also need someone to help you strategize and do the 3 to 5, 7, 10-year strategy and keep that going as well, while you're also looking at then and now. So you got to have the right people. And like I said, you can hire your best friend. I don't recommend it, but you can hire your best friend. Come talk to me about that later. But you have to make sure the skill sets are there. So who is it that you're tapping into? Everybody sounds shiny on paper. And then I wish that we could interview for character and positive thinking and just a mindset, a growth mindset, but that doesn't come out till a lot later. So I would not even hesitate to have probationary periods as you're starting off, because it's really, really easy for us to get bogged down with like, oh man, this is not a great hire, but I don't know how to fire them. Well, let's put in a clause. let's have a probationary period, because you do want to feel them out. As much as you're feeling them out, they're feeling you out too. So are you the best version of the CEO that's being put forward for them as well? So yeah.
So a lot of founders do hire their best friends because that's the only person they trust. They go way back. How do you build that trust, or how do you avoid that?
I think I have seen more BFF businesses fail than I have not. But that's also because if your emotions come in the way, right? Your feelings get hurt. But if you have someone that's strong-willed, but also really great EQ and SQ and PQ, it'll work. But you have to set the expectation high to say that I didn't come in today being mad at you, but you're getting to hear this version of me because you are closest to me. And that's what we do with people that we care. So if we weren't able to rely on that person or them being our confidant, then what's the point of having them around, right? So your BFF is the best person to have with you in the room at that point. But then you also have to demarcate that you are the CEO and that person may just be a co-founder, or they can't be a co-CEO. I mean, you could, but like no, you can't. One person needs to
you can't.
I mean, you can, nicely give the title, but you can't. No, but if you do a MOCA, right? It's like a RACI, but it's another acronym for manager, owner, consultant, helper, approver. Who's the actual owner? It's the CEO. So I think if you set the expectations and say, like, we're going to have our good days and we're going to have our bad days, then yeah, it'll work. But I think you just have to have that conversation. But I've seen it where a lot of first-time founders make the mistake and they're like, man, now we're not going to be able to do this. But I wouldn't want you to do that. So that's just my advice. But I would love for you to come chat with me later and give me a positive story of that it's worked out with your BFF. So I'd love to hear it.
No, I recommend if you want to keep your BFF, you do not go into business with them.
Okay, I'm glad you agree with me.
From experience, yes. Absolutely, you're right. So that fourth time founder, then what are they doing differently?
Good. Great question. I'm thinking of one I know in my head already. So I'm like, okay, that wonderful 4-time CEO, you really have a good grasp of what is happening in your business, but you're not even there, right? You've delegated that responsibility to others. Your office and your cabinet is top notch. And not just that, it's a healthy team. It's a smart team, right? Actually, I'm going to show you a really quick slide. And I want you, as whether you're first time, 4X, 10X, or whatever, really sit your cabinet down, your executive team, your core leadership team down, and talk about these 3 questions that I'm going to put up. 1, what does trust look like on the team? What are some things that you see, hear, and do that make you feel like you can trust others and that you can also be trusted on this team? If your group of leaders can answer this question very candidly and openly, but with empathy, kindness, and compassion, you're on the right track. And the reason is because if you know that you feel this trust and that you're giving trust, everything else that comes after is easy. Why? Because culture eats strategy for breakfast. If you don't have a good culture, which starts with trust, no matter what amazing plan you have, what amazing consultant you brought in to do this pretty graphic of our strategies and our OKRs and our priorities, it's just not going to work. You have to build that trust, right? And the trust can be, hey, Jay-Z, I really think that you should never come to one of our meetings without those glasses, because those glasses are the ones that like lift me up every day, right? But I want to be able to tell you that. That's a positive thing. But now imagine if I wanted to tell you, Jay-Z, I'm just picking on you because you're here. But if I wanted to tell you something that's not so great to hear, like, hey, Jay-Z, like, I really don't think you should wear the color black ever in our meetings. Don't ever show up like that. But I should be able to say stuff like that to you with empathy, kindness, and compassion, and it not be taking to heart, right? It does not break you at the end of the day, and you still wake up the next day like respecting me, being my friend and confidant, and wanting to come to work. So I think that's super important. The other question that you may want to ask your team as a 4X or 10X is, are we a smart team? Right? How are we a smart team and how are we not a smart team? And this is coming from Patrick Lencioni. It's from this book called The Advantage. And he shares in there that a smart team means that you have efficiency, right? You have processes in place, you have structures, you're innovating. Innovation is that explore work. I've already got my bread and butter down, my core. Now I have time to like explore and innovate and like disrupt and come up with all these cool ideas. That's a smart team. We also have strategy, we have our metrics, we all have our skills. And you know, I know it says academic qualifications, but I'll tell you right now, there's a lot of people out there doing amazing without a accolade of a degree in their background. So I would not, I don't know. I personally want to take this quote out. So I don't think you need an academic qualification. And then the last question is, are we a healthy team? How so and why not? Do we have a common vision? Are we all driving towards the same vision? Does everybody know what the priorities are, the OKRs are? OKRs are objective key results. And is there minimum politics? You can't say there's no politics. I mean, there has to be. I may be privy to some things with my CEO that I cannot tell any other chief. I just can't. But what I will do is prep them mentally somehow, kind of, you know, socialize things with them and they won't even know what's going on, right? Is there minimum confusion? You can't say no confusion. There's always room for clarity to be there. And then if there's high morale, high productivity, low turnover, if your attrition is low, you're rocking it. Give yourself a pat on the back, especially if you're star employees. If your stars are still there from day one, and you know, I know right now it's the kind of economy where people are skipping every 2 years and they're going to different companies. But I come from a value mindset of being with the same company for 13 years, which is what I did before I pivoted. So loyalty is different. And then I think the other thing I wanted to share was this right here. Oh, probably shouldn't have done all of that. Sorry about that.
No, take your time.
I think I didn't skip. Oh, there it is. Okay, right here. This is super important. If you want to be this amazing 4X CEO, you got to build that vulnerability-based trust first. You have to build it, right? When you start with the vulnerability-based trust, your team will step in and they will be courageous stepping in. Then the next thing you have to do is make sure that there's conflict, but you mine for the conflict, you seek for the conflict, not obviously a hostile type of conflict, but what it does is it forces your team to have PUDs, right? Passionate, unfiltered debates. This is all from Patrick Lencioni's The Advantage. If you can have a PUD and walk out of the room not hating each other, oh my gosh, it's amazing. You have to have conflict. You can't just be like, yes, CEO, you're perfect at everything, and you think amazingly, and I'm going to say yes. Like, that's not how this works, right? Like, we have opinions, we have voices, we want to be like, actually, I disagree, but let me see what I can do to help you and support it. And then the CEO also has to have true commitment. So you have to force the clarity and closure. You have to, like, does everybody understand what needs to be done for tomorrow? Are we okay? Are we all aligned on the same page? And the team is going to seek the clarity as well and be bought in. But you know what? Sometimes we are going to disagree, CEO. I don't agree with you, but you know what? I'm going to commit to it. And to my direct reports, when I cascade that message down, I'm going to have a bought in committed message. I'm not going to say, well, I really disagree, but you know what? I'm going to have to do it. So you're going to have to do it. That's not how the team is going to respond. Sorry. So you have to make sure that everybody that walks out of that room in that meeting is clear. And accountability. CEOs, please have high expectations. Have them. The only way you're going to survive and thrive and succeed is that you held onto those high standards for your team. And your team is going to ensure that there's peer-to-peer accountability so you don't have to do it. You're the CEO. You're not following up on things. People should be happily giving you updates. So if they are not doing that to you in your one-on-one meetings with them, come talk to me. I have lots of ideas on what's happening in your culture. And then lastly, the results, right? The CEO is focused on results. The whole team is focused on results. And then the team itself is going to focus on the collective results, not individual results, right? You're always going to make decisions that are collectively good for the company and for the stakeholders that we're working for. It's not that, oh, well, I really think that we should put this product because I want to be able to use it. Well, that's not how this is going to go, right? You did a needs assessment. The community needs it. So this is why you're making this decision. So I wanted to share that because I think that if you can do this pyramid well and have all of these honest and candid conversations, you're going to thrive. You're going to be 4x, 8x, 10x, whatever it is, whatever number XX you want to put on there.
I love that you start with this vulnerability-based trust. You know, the Google Psychological Safety Study really points to this. And so many founders still think that if their directs can do it like they would have done it, that's success, but it's not. It's just knowing what the result should be. Like, you know, we're going to hit this profit goal or close these deals. Yeah. As long as we do that, it doesn't actually matter how you got there, as long as it's ethical, right? So it's a big shift.
Yeah. You know, I will say though, I think the biggest thing that you want to do as a founder, CEO, 4X, 10X, you want to check your ego at the door. I know that's really hard. You're going to hate me for it. You're going to hate me and you're going to call me and you're going to go on my LinkedIn and you're going to say, Anar, I did not agree with you. But I will tell you, you're not trying to win a battle in that room every day, right? What you're doing is you're leading a team. And you're people manager. And if you don't have the support system, if you don't have the right cabinet, and if you don't have the right chief of staff, it's going to be really difficult for you. So check the ego at the door. Just come in every day with a clean slate and see what you can do with your team. And I promise you'll have a better day and you'll wake up happier. And I know that takes a little bit of introspection as well. So I'd love to have a chat on the side if anybody wants to talk about ego. I'm all for it.
Well, the way you know is if you're working nights and weekends and still nothing is getting done by yourself or your team. That is definitely a leading indicator that the ego is way too high. And I think the carrot from that stick is, imagine you could start an empire of 4 businesses simultaneously because you don't have to be there for all of them. So
correct.
I think that's a really good point. And we'll end with my last question. So if you're listening in the audience and you're shy and you've been kind of holding on to your question, this is your last chance. Please type in your question in the comments. But Anar, I want to ask you about fractional. What does it actually mean to be a fractional chief of staff? Is it like a fractional special projects, fractional HR? Can you define that for us?
Yes. That's a very, very important question. It means what you want it to mean, CEOs and founders. If you want me there for a 3-month contract, great. If you want me there for an open-ended contract and I have you on my docket for a 1.5 years and we've got a good thing going, then great. It can mean whatever you want it to be. It could be 5 hours a week. It could be 10 hours a week. It could be 15, 20, 30, etc. I think a lot of fractional chief of staffs, they do about 3 to 4 clients at a time if they're one person. If they've got a team of 2 or 3 or 4, then you can get more and more clients. But the way that I do it is where I do 3 to 4 at a time, and ranging anywhere between 10 hours a week to about 40 hours a week full time. And I also have global clients. So a lot of fractional chief of staffs also kind of diversify, and that way, if you have clients in different parts of the world, you can manage your time a little bit better as well. And I know that sometimes I have like West Coast clients or East Coast clients in the States. So that kind of helps to offset my start times and end times. So fractional could be whatever you want it to be in terms of time, but also skill sets. A really, really good chief of staff is going to be a Jill of all trades, like I am. What you're going to get is a little bit of everything in terms of breadth and lots of like good handful of depth. But if you have someone that is a quick learner, grasper, can go do research on their own, come back to the table with a proposal, be open to like starting from scratch all over again, then you've got a good deal going, because a lot of chief of staffs are really, really, really good at learning who their CEOs are and being their right hand person. So that way they don't have to do a lot of redos and let's start over and I don't like this draft at all. So it could be on anything, right? I have handled the HR department, the finance department, the ops department, the comms department. I've also done the tech department. So I think it just depends on where your need is, and your chief of staff can sort of be there for you. Now, if you have all of your work streams and your departments covered with a leader, then your chief of staff helps you to manage the rest of the C-level and the rest of the executives, and becomes your proxy when you're not there and helps you with the executive decision making. So you want to get a level 3 if that's what you need at this moment. If you're 4x, 10x, like do that, right? But if you are founder just starting out, whatever, and you don't have an EA, then you can combine some of those things with the level 1 of EA chief of staff combo. But I will tell you, those are 2 different roles. If you want me to just schedule meetings for you and check your emails for you, don't hire me. Go get a executive assistant. Go get a virtual assistant that just does that for you. But a chief of staff actually helps you do strategy and implement that strategy and keep everybody accountable so that you don't have to. So fractional just means that you get the part that you want and you don't have to hire a whole person for FTE. You can just base it off of the need in the moment and the time frame you get to set as well.
Can you zoom in on this chart? Because I think it's really great.
I'm not sure if I can.
I don't know on the slide if there's a view percentage.
Let me see. Okay, nope, it's not working.
That's okay. So as a founder, how would you know that you're starting to need a chief of staff? Are you successful at finding product market fit and now you need to scale your team? Is that level 2, or how would a founder know?
Yes. A level 1 would be you have like 0 to 25 employees. Level 2 could go up to 50. If you're treading past 50, you definitely need a level 3. The whole point is that when you alone cannot handle all those work streams, right? I had a client where he was handling 8 work streams because he was a CEO and he just did it from day one. So he just kept continuing to do it. I came in at about 20 employees with him. And then by the time we were done, we had tripled the employees. We were 60 and I was only there a year. So they were growing fast, right? And the CEO could not handle all 8 of those work streams. I said, what are you doing? Stop. Handle the 2 that are really important. Fundraising, get out there, get the money in, but also like do your job. You're the outward facing one. Let me handle the other 6. Right. And like I gave him 1 more and I said, you handle these 2. I'm going to do the other 6 and I got you. And it was like HR, tech, ops, marcoms, 1 other one. I can't remember anymore, but I was handling it all because I can, because that's how good I am. And your chief of staff that you're going to get should be this good. Now it's okay if they're not. Sometimes you just need to take a chance on someone and start off. That's what happened with me. Somebody took a chance on me. But the potential that they saw in me, the will was really high, the skill was really high, and they'll also get there. But you do want someone, if you are going to scale big and large and you're going to grow and you're doubling, tripling in your employees, you need someone really strong. You don't have time to sit there and test it out. You can, remember, put a probationary clause in there. Even in the contracts, put a probationary clause in there. But I think, at least with me, you're getting a level 3 and up. I can do a level 1 and 2 happily. I'll happily do it. But my expertise is in 3 and up.
All right. Well, if people have questions, how should they reach out to you?
Ooh, wonderful. I think the best way would be to reach out to me on my LinkedIn. Shoot me a message. If you add me, great, but like put a message with it so then I know what you're reaching out for and I will respond to you right away. I'll also give you some of the email addresses and the websites and all of that stuff that you need. And we can have a one-on-one conversation about what your needs are and what gaps I can fill. But yeah, it's at LinkedIn, Anar Amin.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for all of this hard-hitting but necessary advice.
Thank you, Jay-Z, for having me. Also, please come to all of the live webinars with those amazing glasses.
Oh, anytime. Yes. Yeah, I also wanted to plug, I'm launching an AI class for chief of staffs and founders who still get that pesky question, what are you doing with AI? And it's a brainstorm that's very methodical, goes through all the different types of AI that you could possibly use. And I think some companies even like that they're like, I'm not going to do AI this year. I'm going to do it next year. So for chief of staffs who are supporting founders in figuring out the answer to that question, get in touch with me as well on my LinkedIn. All right. Well, we're going to close the stream and let's do our pageant goodbyes.
Thanks,
everyone.
Bye, everyone.
You can stay on the stream, but I'm going to end it for the audience.
Sure. No worries.